Hello, I'm Michael Lynch. Thank you for joining me this evening. How long until our next 9/11? That's the question we address in the DML report. Yesterday, I told you about a new report from the Department of Homeland Security. It states more than 500,000 people overstayed their visas in 2015. 480,000 of them remain somewhere in the USA. Last night, my guest, Dick Morris, voiced his concern.
We have a meticulous system of making sure we keep a record of everybody that comes into the country, but none of who leaves. There was a pilot program Bush set up for 9 or 10 cities to monitor the ones who go out. Obama canceled it. It doesn't exist anymore. We have no way of knowing who's overstayed. No way. And therefore no way of rounding them up.
Adding insult to injury, yesterday, not more than a day after the report was issued, a pair of DHS officials told the Senate that the government does not search for most of the people who overstay their temporary visas. Craig Healy, an assistant director at U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, claims the agency reviews the ocean of people who overstayed their visas, but they prioritize the deportations of the violators based on who went on and committed a crime. So in other words, we are chasing troublemakers after they cause the trouble. This is why I can promise you that another 9/11 is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Mr. Healy made his comments during a hearing on the federal government's failure to implement a biometric system to track entries into and exits from the country, as required by a 2004 law. And do you know why they failed to enforce the law? Because it would cause gridlock at airports. Really? If a person is granted a visa, I don't care what for. If they come from a country that harbors terrorists, I don't care if they stay there for hours. I want to know where these people are at all times when they're in our country. And you should want to know the same thing. Love them or hate them, Donald Trump wants to stop all Muslims from entering the country. He wants to deport all the illegal aliens. And this is why he's dominating the polls. Joining me now to weigh in on this is former INS agent Michael Cutler and the former commissioner of the New York City Police Department, Bernie Kerik. All right, guys, I want to do a little comparison here. Bernie, how long does it take to do a background check on somebody who's going to become a New York City cop?
It may take about, if somebody put their full force on it, maybe 6 weeks. Especially today with social media and all of the technological stuff we can do, it's not going to take that long. Okay, so you got 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. How many, back in your day, how many guys would we process through and how many people would be checking them? So how many recruits, how many people check? You have a class, for example, in 1986, my recruit class was 2,500. Mm-hmm. To get 2,500 recruits into a class, you may go through 10,000. You may go through 15,000 to get 2,500 into that class. Now I come over to you. We take in over 1 million people into this country every single year. How many people do we have checking those backgrounds, and how long are they actually spending on each one? Well, it's 1 million lawful immigrants, tens of millions of temporary visitors, including the visa waiver program. Mm-hmm. Very few. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we're flying blind. And in point of fact, it was James Comey, the head of the FBI, who warned that, for example, with the Syrian refugees, that there is no way to do a background investigation. So understand what the problem is. At a time when we should be requiring visas, something as fundamental as a visa from every non-immigrant alien seeking entry, more than half of the non-immigrant visitors are coming in under the visa waiver program. On 9/11, there were 26 visa waiver countries. We are now up to 38 visa waiver countries, in large measure because the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has mandated that we allow more people to visit so they can make more money. They've created something known as the Discover America Partnership. All right, hold on for 1 second. Sure. So I've got 480,000 people just last year hanging around the U.S. I don't know where they are. Right. Probably really don't know who they are, right? And then on top of that, I'm going to take in more than 1 million people this year. What kind of security threat does that cause me? Enormous. Enormous. All you have to do is go back to James Comey's statement and the Secretary of DHS. Both of them have said we don't have the ability to vet these people. And as he just mentioned, we're dealing with people that are coming from terrorist countries, terrorist harboring countries. We're bringing refugees in that can't be vetted. We don't have a relationship with Syria. We don't have a relationship with their embassy. We don't have a relationship with the Iraqi government as it stands today, a good one, where we're going to get accurate information from that country or any of the others where these people are coming from.
This is a key point, because you were saying before we went on air, I was asking you about the whole cop thing, and you're saying, listen, we're going into the database, we can tell who your cousins are, who your neighbors are, who you've been dialing, who you've been talking to, et cetera, so forth. We can't do the same thing for all these people that we're letting in.
No, and in fact, there's been reports that ISIS has overrun Syrian office buildings, so they have blank passports and the printing machines. So they're cranking out passports in valid names of deceased individuals so that you could buy such a passport. A British journalist did just that for $2,000. But beyond that, look at the 9/11 Commission report. What was the point to the 9/11 Commission if not to prevent future attacks? When the space shuttle blew up, they convened the commission to address the failures. The 9/11 Commission was supposed to address the failures.
But it went nowhere. We've got today where we've been told that we don't want to have gridlock in our airports.
Listen, the priority...
Who cares?
The U.S. Chamber of Commerce paying the bribes to the politicians known as campaign contributions.
Let me change focus here for one
Go
second.
ahead.
Trump wants to ban all Muslims. Now, I've been looking into this, talking to different people. They said, listen, according to the law, if he was he was the president, he could actually do it if he wanted to. Would that help?
Well, here's
temporarily anyway, until we catch our breath?
First of all, you have to finish his statement. He wants to ban them until we figure out how to vet them. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a major problem.
Which is a major problem? Vetting them?
Vetting them.
Yeah.
How are you going to vet that many people? How are you going to vet them accurately when we don't have access to real data? You know, when you talk about the cops, 10,000, if you need 2,500 recruits, I could eliminate 1,500 just by going on the social media accounts. Facebook, Twitter, whatever. I promise you I could eliminate a whole bunch of people. We need real data, real-time data, real intelligence, and we don't have access to it.
And there's another problem. No boots on the ground to do the door knocks, to knock on doors and interview anybody. And that was another statement made by the FBI and by Michael,
whatever his name is.
the head of counterterrorism at the FBI made the point, Steinbach, the head of the FBI's counterterrorism unit said, we don't have people on the ground to do the interviews.
So are you telling me that Trump is not going to be able to ban all Muslims, or he is going to be able to until we catch our breath, but we're never going to catch our breath?
There's a better way to go, I think.
Go ahead.
Look at the countries, not the religion. You know, everyone gets sensitive about religion. Look at the countries that send us the terrorists and enforce the immigration laws with a zero tolerance for violators to cultivate informants.
I just made They Come to America 3, first movie you haven't been in. And I went and I spent a lot of time up in Canada. Canada is a hotbed for a terror cell. So what, we're going to stop?
Absolutely.
We got to stop everything then.
But you need field investigators in the United States. We only have a couple thousand INS agents.
What about if we just lowered the immigration numbers to something that was really small and reasonable, and then we could do real background checks to get it under control?
To get it under control, but you need interior enforcement. I was part of the drug task force for half my 30-year career. Mm-hmm. Let's have an immigration task force, and let's start hiring more agents. But immediately, I would assign FBI agents, ATF. How about those IRS agents doing Obamacare? Bring them over to DHS. Start cracking down on immigration law violators, cultivate informants within those ethnic immigrant communities, and start to get a handle and convince people around the world that we're serious about our laws.
All right, well, let's take the other look, okay? The other look that Trump says is that he wants to deport everybody, right? And this is why he's keeping up at the polls. Mm-hmm. So we're going to keep him accountable, all right? If that was to be handed down, to start going and grabbing people and doing, let's say, mass roundups, what would that require? I mean, because the police and ICE really don't work together. You would have to start working with them.
One, they'd have to work together.
Okay.
Two, you'd have to have the resource capability to do this. Manpower, money, equipment, technology, etc.
Judges, the courts, and
the
so
judges,
forth.
the courts.
Yes.
You beef it up. You'd have to
reinvent the wheel.
Really, I mean, because the way it works today, it's not going to happen. He'd have to change the whole system to make it work.
Could it be changed?
Sure.
Yes.
If you want to, we
Step
went
one.
to the moon.
What's step one?
As I said, start hiring people, start getting more judges online, go after sanctuary cities.
Okay.
Look, sanctuary cities are guilty of aiding, abetting, inducing, harboring, and shielding. Those are felonies. It makes no sense, and yet you had the Republicans, through the omnibus funding bill, provide funding but not do anything against sanctuary cities? That's nuts. We need the police to be working in close cooperation. And for years, I worked very closely with the NYPD. I got to tell you, it's probably the best department in the world.
It is the best.
There was Americans.
Guys, this was a great block. Thank you both for being here. Unbelievable
Thanks for having
information.
us.